Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. I proudly call our City Council meeting to order, and I kindly ask our City Clerk to please take the roll call.
Bruno. Here. Burkhart.
Here.
Lemons.
Here.
Ruby. Here. Haven.
Here.
Kilberg.
Here.
Maladra.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Swanson.
Here. We have a full house tonight, folks. I'd like to ask Jack and Grace and the others I have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, but to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, guys. Our first order of business, ladies and gentlemen, is item 3A. That is to proclaim October 24th, 2019 as World Polio Day. We have a distinguished guest and other distinguished guests with us this evening. Mr. Miles, would you like to certainly introduce?
So thanks for having us back. It's good to see all of you after a week off in not as cold an environment as we had down in the basement of the fire department last week. So I'm with Geneva Rotary, president of the club. Wanted to thank the city again for proclaiming October 24th World Polio Day. I was here last year. We did the same thing. We are partnering with the DECA Club at the high school for a fundraiser this year, and they'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I did want to talk a little bit about polio. I think, Mike, I think you said you had some family members that had gone through polio. It's a disease that a lot of us don't know much about, but it's surprising how recent polio was a major problem. In the late 1980s, there was almost 1,000 people a day afflicted with polio. So over 350,000 cases a year around the world. In 1989, Rotary started to partner with World Health Organization, with the UN and other government agencies to start trying to eradicate polio around the world. The only disease that is eradicated is smallpox. So from when I was here last year, we had 3 countries that still had live polio going on. There's good news. The good news is it's down to 2. Nigeria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan were on the list last year. Nigeria has gone 1 year without any polio reports. So that's good news. So they'll go through a multi-year process to declare themselves polio-free. The bad news is last year we had about 30 cases in those other 2 countries. This year there's about 88 in polio in Pakistan and Afghanistan. You read the news, see the issues that go on with sectarian violence and tribal things that go on, and trying to just get access to people to provide the vaccines and get to them creates more challenges in countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan. Although the challenge isn't far from our own door, as there's more and more countries in the Western world that think about anti-vaccine programs or policies or thoughts. That certainly puts all of us at risk, because we are all just one airplane ride away from this disease coming back. It was probably about 6 months ago, I think. You remember there was some conditions that showed up in Chicago hospitals, and it was a little scary to those of us in Rotary and to all of us, because it said they were polio-like diseases, and none of us want this. So since that time, since Rotary got involved with these other agencies, about $7 billion have been raised. Since the late 1980s, 16 million people now can walk around the world as a result of polio being almost eradicated. The effort continues. The good news is that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been very generous in their donations. So every dollar that Rotary raises and donates to End Polio Now, any money that comes into End Polio Now, endpolionow.org, that comes in is matched 2 for 1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So $1 becomes 3. Those $3 have become enough to buy 5 vaccines. So that helps us. The other good part about the End Polio Now program that Rotary's been involved in is kind of the additional things that come with it. So because we are out working to inoculate and provide vaccines, we can also do things like measles and tetanus. As a matter of fact, the government of Canada just gave Rotary of Canada a large grant to go spread, or to go provide vaccines for measles in the country of Ghana. So all the infrastructure's been put around is doing that. So we are partnering. Something new this year we've done is we've partnered with the DECA Club, Distributive Education Club, at the high school for a couple other things. We brought up to them the idea of running our Purple Pinky program. You didn't know that when I asked you to get involved in this, did you? Okay. So I have 5 of their leadership team here, and they're going to talk about what their plan is for World Polio Day.
Fantastic.
Come on up.
How are you, sir?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for having us all.
Thank you.
So, what DECA is?
Well, let me ask for you to please introduce yourself first.
My name's Brett Schwartz,
Brett, what
I'm
year
the
in school are you?
senior.
Fantastic.
I'm the vice president of philanthropy for the DECA Club, so this is kind of my deal.
This is your deal. Yeah, wow.
So, what DECA is it's like the business club at this school. So, anyone who's interested in pursuing business as a career would be interested in joining it. Last year, Grace actually helped to work on a project for him to rebrand their social media and all that stuff for them, which I think was successful. I don't know, I was a part of it. So Mrs. Dunlap, who's our in charge of us all, approached me in the spring about the Purple Pinky project, and at first I was like, well, it's polio. I don't have polio. No one I know has polio. Who cares, right? And upon doing research, I found out that Rotary has been very good in fighting the disease. They've vaccinated 120 some odd countries and raised billions of dollars. So it's great to be a part of a project that's so close to its finish line. There's 2 countries left. I thought it was 3. Guess it's 2. They're down to hundreds of people having the disease instead of millions. It used to be something the president could have, and now it's all but gone.
Which president was that?
FDR.
Very good.
Yeah.
What year was that when he was diagnosed?
Diagnosed sometime in the 20s or something.
Very good.
Yeah.
1925. Well done, A+.
Yeah. So what we're actually doing at the high school is during all the lunch hours on this Thursday, which is World Polio Day, I'm encouraging students to donate their spare change to the project, because all it takes is, like he said, it takes $1 to vaccinate 5 people. So any money people are willing to give us, we will happily take. And you donate, we give you a purple lollipop, we'll paint your fingernails. You can have a sticker if you want. And that's kind of it. We're going to have donation boxes set up in the staff areas, because we're probably more likely to get money from the adults than the students.
They have no money.
Yeah, and Mr. Miles was on our school announcements, or will be tomorrow morning.
Oh, cool.
With a little segment explaining the project and what it's about. Put up 50 posters around the school by myself on Friday, 'cause she ditched me.
I'm sorry.
Throwing shade there,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Vice President of Philanthropy,
Yep.
you want to study business later. How does business and the world of philanthropy intersect in your humble
Well,
opinion?
companies have an obligation to be responsible and stuff like that, so it's very important. Any business organization that makes a lot of money, it's important to give back, so you don't become like a big, evil, tyrannical company, something like that, most companies have philanthropy as part of their programs. I know Target does that stuff like crazy, plenty of companies, so it's very important.
So when you're a CEO, you're going to make certain that your corporate social responsibility platform is one that reaches out, and
Absolutely, yeah.
that's excellent. And you'll sponsor Swedish Days and everything else?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good. Do you want to introduce the guests who are with you?
Sure, yeah, Jack, you want to come up? That's Jack Lamani, he's the president of the club. That's Grace, she's not an officer, but she's helping me with this project. She's kind of my
I met them earlier,
partner.
yes.
That's Anna, she's VP of Communications.
Hi, Anna.
That's Juliana, and I don't know what your job is. What's your job?
I am VP of membership.
Are you all seniors?
No, I'm
Us
a
3 are
sophomore.
seniors. She's a sophomore.
I'm a
and she's
junior.
Junior, okay. So the seniors, I know Jack's heading out to Boston College. I know Grace is exploring options still.
Yeah.
What are you up to, man?
Not sure. I just got accepted to Alabama, thinking about going there. I like Indiana a lot. Bunch
They're
of
very
colleges.
similar.
Yeah.
And what do you want to study?
Finance.
Finance. That's good. Questions or comments from the dais for Brett or any of the members? It's really cool, man.
Thank
You know, to a point, Mr. Miles, you don't hear about polio anymore.
No.
It-
Well, that's a
it's-
good thing, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
It's a
But-
good thing because it's not in the forefront. The
Correct.
challenge is, the only way we can make sure we never hear about it is to complete eradication.
Correct,
You know, so you have to keep working at it, just like smallpox.
right.
That has gone away. That's why people get concerned about measles, because it can come back.
Sure.
If it's not completely eradicated globally. So there's some really great work being done, a lot of money put toward it between governments and nonprofit organizations. That's why the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been such a phenomenal help with this, and, you know, hopefully, we can continue to make strides. It's kind of, you know, there's only 100 left in the world, and Rotarians feel bad about that, because we're gonna keep at it till it's finally eradicated.
So Brett, as a VP of philanthropy, what does philanthropy mean? Do you know the root of that word?
From the dictionary, like Latin roots or something?
Yeah, like Latin roots, man.
Not really. Something to do with
Text me when you
charity.
get the answer.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll let,
You'll like it.
I'll let Brian Burns know.
No. He's illiterate. So just go ahead and text me, so.
Okay, so with that, Grace, do you have some of our goodies here?
Oh, yes.
So we'd like to do, Mr. Mayor.
This is the pink
Yeah,
whatever.
Purple pinky.
Purple,
Not the
okay.
pink purpley,
Oh, God.
the purple pinky. So, Mr. Mayor, we'd like you to be our first donor
You get
to the purple pinky.
someday.
I'll get my finger painted.
I'll come in and get my finger, absolutely. You want to do it right now?
Yeah.
Do you? Who's got a book?
So,
Will you take the city's credit card?
the only reason we're doing the purple
I don't
pinky
have
is
a
because we wanted to see if Kevin would do it.
Okay, heck yes, I'll do
Hey,
it.
Mayor Burns. No, the reality is, the purple pinky has a meaning in the vaccination world. So as folks go into,
The dollar bill.
as folks go in to give vaccinations, when a child does get the vaccine, they paint their pinky purple, so that over the coming days, they know that that child was vaccinated. So this is similar to what you see, if you see particularly Middle Eastern elections. People vote, they get their purple finger.
What
So
color
we're
is
doing
that?
a purple pinky.
What do you think?
There's purple dum-dums, but I thought that was maybe a little too fitting.
Just pretty. Thank you. Do I do,
Yeah, air it out.
air it out?
Okay, so you got $1 out of him. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're very welcome. This'll,
So how many did you have done?
just one.
Okay, while you were looking, I didn't know if it was,
If I give you $5, I'll get a French tip? It's amazing how I knew what that is, isn't it?
that's a little worrisome, yeah. So,
Who else
anyway,
wants to get a fingernail painted? Alderman Caven?
okay,
First donation.
I'm contributing as we speak
I'll
here.
stand there and take money.
Ooh, it's powerful.
And you're also gonna have baskets around so that the teachers are not left out of this, right? Because they're smart enough not to come into the cafeteria.
Wash it up, we'll go to a meeting tomorrow. Turn the microphone on.
I just- Wow, okay. This is gonna cost me. Yeah, Dean
it
getting
is.
his finger faded is gonna cost me something, so.
Why do you think the police are here tonight, Chuck? What's that?
I think we have some over here too.
Oh, awesome.
And I'll do an online donation.
So Jack, when you head to Boston College, what are you gonna study?
Probably finance.
Finance. And Grace, what do you want to study when you select your school?
You know, that's what I don't know. Kind of figuring out it as I go.
That's good, absolutely. This will be on the cover of our next year's annual report.
Okay, and if I may, Mayor Burns, so I'm donating in honor of my daughter who
Nice.
recently joined DECA at
Oh, that's
school.
exciting.
So, yeah, she'll be happy to know I got my purple pinky.
Absolutely.
So apparently we didn't do first and last names for everybody, so we're,
Oh, that's okay. I mean,
Brett with one T is going to do that.
Yeah.
go ahead, Brett, with one T.
I'm Brett Schwartz. That's Jack LaManna. That's Grace Leone. That's Anna Kressler, and that's Juliana Longo.
Juliana, yes, it's a good name.
Just keep going around, Grace, see what else we can get out of it.
Endpolio.org.
Might have to open a couple windows there. I think I'm getting. God,
Yeah,
it's like a bad Brady Bunch episode.
so we could go home and watch this on TV, it might be kind of entertaining, huh?
Ladies,
pass.
have you thought about the future yourselves?
So get up here.
Come on up.
You're not getting off the hook, I've seen this before.
It'd get some views.
Hello.
Juliana, how about you? What are you thinking of?
I'm deciding between either business or engineering.
No kidding. Any schools identified this early in your career?
Well, I have two older sisters, and one of them actually studies business at Iowa, and the other one studies engineering at Purdue.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of have a little bit of schools that I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Have you been to visit it yet?
Yes, for them, so I would tag along to kind of see the programs as well.
Well, that's exciting.
I was thinking political science and then a law degree.
You know, if you get the political science degree, you know what happens, don't you? Nails painted at public meetings. 35 years from now. Well, you guys are awesome. I have a proclamation as well.
Okay, Mr. Bruno, Alderman Bruno.
Oh, forgive me. Yes, sir.
For those interested in this, endpolio.org, and there is a donate link, which I did here while I was
And
getting
that'll
my...
all be matched 2-for-1 by the Melinda Gates Foundation. So, at any time during the year, not just this week, so,
That's wonderful.
okay?
October 24th, in the city of Geneva, World Polio Day 2019. Is there a motion to so approve? Motion by Swanson, seconded by Alderman Marks. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
May I take a photo with you, students?
Yes, you may. Yeah. We'll get the mayor.
That looks so nice.
I know. Well, see, the good news is I have a wife and a daughter at home that both know of several of these products, so that should be
Able to get that off without a
should be
problem.
one napkin with a little dab of that
Yep.
stuff, and we should be all fixed up.
Yep.
Who wants to stand next to Mr. Miles?
Keep up the good work.
Students, yeah, good old Dave Nelson, man, photographer extraordinaire. We haven't seen you in a while, Dave. You're looking good, man. Student, if you have homework and stuff and you feel you need to leave, by all means, you can't. No, feel free if you'd like to, but we respect that, okay?
I'm in no rush to go back to work.
Your future is bright in business, Brett. Good. Where do you work?
I really does.
Oh, yeah. Place prints money, you don't have to go over there. Students, you're going to love this. Our next item, item 3B, is a presentation by none other than the Geneva Police Department.
Bye.
Commander, welcome, sir.
How are you?
I'm well.
Well, thank you for having us. That's obviously a tough act to follow. We don't have any lollipops or nail painting. But we did decide to do our presentation on coming back to the council in regards to some of the software programs that have been approved through the budget process over the last couple of years. I doubt anybody would want to hear about some of the administrative functions, so I brought some of the super users for our programs. Rhonda Sales, who's our records manager. She's been with the Geneva Police Department for 21 years, started out as a records specialist. She was the administrative assistant to the chief of police and has managed the records division for the past 14 years. Sergeant Brad Jardee, well-known throughout the Geneva community. He's been here for 12 years, started out as a patrol officer, best known as the high school liaison officer for several years, and has recently been promoted to sergeant, where he oversees the field training program, our college internship program, and our Citizens Police Academy, giving him much more exposure. So the programs we're going to talk about are PACE, DACRA, and Frontline. PACE is basically a...
Already I'm screwing this up.
I know. There you go. PACE is a scheduling software that works in real time, and it allows us to have notifications and warning systems in different colors and things like that we'll explain to you. DACRA is e-ticketing and adjudication software. Currently, we're using it for parking and traffic tickets that can be completed in the squad cars, printed out, and given to the violators on site. These alleged violations are then sent through an adjudication process that avoids court, so violators don't have to go to the King County Courthouse or the branch court to have their day in court. In fact, DACRA has the potential for you to be able to contest your violation without even attending an adjudication hearing, sending things in through the mail. And then we're going to talk about Frontline, which is a public safety solutions toolkit, and it's all of that. There's multiple systems that are all integrated into one, and it keeps track of all of the work done without having to have a paper trail or anything like that. We have directed patrol, vacation watches, at-risk residents, condition reports, overnight parking can be kept track of, and pet management. So without further ado, I'm going to send you over to Sergeant Brad Jardee and Records Manager Rhonda Sales.
Welcome, Sergeant.
Thank you. So a little redundant, we're going to go over everything again, but show you a little more intimate look about how these programs affected us. And I'm going to give you the patrol perspective, whereas Ron here is going to give you the records perspective, the different divisions and how we operate with it. But this is just an example of what our schedule looks like. This all used to be on paper, used to be printed out, lots of whiteout and different things, and now it is much more user-friendly. I don't know if you can see the shifts up there, but that's sergeants on the top in yellow, and then day shift is represented by 1. And then we have afternoon shift as 2, and midnights is 3. And the officers can see this on one full screen, and it's very easy to navigate. Now, this is the clean, nice-looking version. This includes now the detectives and their different schedules, as well as administration there at the bottom. And this, again, is all one page. Just gave you different screenshots. This is what it really looks like in real time, which is very color-coded, very colorful. Sometimes we call it the Christmas tree, in the fact that there's a lot of things going on, but it gives us a great snapshot of a pay period, which is Sunday to Sunday there, showing us the different components that go into a schedule. So just on a daily basis, as I'm picking up, let's say, daily lineups, in order to determine what officers need to go to what beat, it's very easy for me to go on this one place to determine who needs to work where and who's actually on shift that day. Changes to the schedules, you can see those changes were all over the place as far as sick time, vacation time, different details, assignments. It's very easy to track, and we never really had that great of historical tracking like we do now, where we can go back and see exactly why things were changed. Deficiencies in ship strength are immediately apparent. It actually warns us, hey, dummy, you're going too low. You need an extra officer here. So that's great for us supervisors to make sure we do have coverage. And like I said, too, overtime, especially assignments, are a lot easier to account for if there's other things going on in the community. Presentations, for example, I was able to see, oh yeah, I've got city council presentation tonight I need to go to. So I was able to access that. And it's a lot easier for us to access that, keep track of our own time. It tracks our benefit time instead of us having to keep it separate. It's all in one place. And I can check it 24/7. So wherever I'm at on my phone, I can log in, find out, oh man, I don't know when my work next. I don't know when that presentation is. And it's updated in real time. So I've had conversations through text message with my commander about, oh, I need this changed, I need that changed. he says, check pace again, I can relog, refresh, and his changes are immediately made, which is great. He doesn't have to send out emails, he doesn't have to make those notifications. So as far as ease of use and efficiency of our scheduling system, it's greatly increased our productivity with that.
Records has been utilizing the time off request via PACE for several months now. We receive notification right away for requests and approval for time off real time. So the minute they request it, you're notified right away. So it's really streamlines everything. The system alerts you if coverage is needed for a shift. It's timestamps requests. If two people submitted a request for time off on the same day, you'll know who submitted the request first. So like they both can, it like timestamps and you have a history of everything. Everything can be seen on the schedule as far in advance as needed.
And to kind of spin off that a little bit, I didn't expound on how we use it. We don't use it to its entirety right now, and Records is kind of our test group for that, in that they can do all their time off requests through the program as opposed to having to fill in a separate sheet. Eventually we're going to be able to do that, and we'll actually be able to send blasts out via text message or email saying, hey, everybody on patrol, we need the coverage for this date and that time, and it can actually account for, on seniority basis, who responds to those emails and things like that. So from what Rhonda said, it's been working really well in the records end, and eventually once we get all up to speed, we'll be doing that on the patrol end as well. As far in advance as possible too is another thing. I can see out the entire year. So if I need to plan for vacation, I need to plan for a baby or something like that, no disclosures. It's one of those things that you can then accommodate for way ahead of time. Now DACRA is a big change for how we do things in patrol. Everything used to be handwritten.
Sergeant, could I interrupt you?
Sure, absolutely.
What's the acronym DACRA stand for?
That is a great question. I'm going to defer to my commander.
I have no idea. So I've asked them time and time again, and it's just something they came up with.
Maybe it's not an acronym at all.
Even the founder of the actual program, it started in Elgin, and when she developed the program and got it up and running, she did the right thing and moved out to Hawaii, and left some other techie people in charge of it. So it's kind of lost where the name came from over the years, and they just don't know anymore.
Maybe it's Hawaiian for aloha, like see you
I'm
later.
out of here.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Forgive me for the interruption.
Not at all. So DACRA is much different than what we're used to. I've been on 12 years, and I've only known how to write a ticket or write something down on a carbon copy the traditional way, which most officers, no matter how long they've been an officer at a department, have had to do. So now it's all computer-based. And surprisingly, we've had a lot of success with this moving forward, and the transition was a lot smoother than anticipated, because anytime you change something in law enforcement, obviously there's going to be a bit of a learning curve, especially from the older officers who have done it for 20, possibly even 30 years. But because of the easy use of this program, it's gone a lot smoother. People who are involved in law enforcement, cops, created this program and were able to adapt it to our needs. There I go again, double-clicking. Previous. Now, it could be overwhelming, especially for those other officers. This looks like a lot. This is the home portal screen. So there's a lot of different options. It's like, oh man, all I want to do is write a warning, or all I want to do is write a parking ticket. However, this gets pared down pretty easily once we train on it and understand what we're looking for. And we don't use a lot of this stuff, but we can. And that's another option with this program, is there's a lot of availability for us to expand it to suit our needs. But this is just a generic screen of what we have to type in, and it's very user-friendly in that everything, hey, dummy, you need to fill in this red box first, and it won't let you go on to the next one until you complete the previous. The company's also been really good. If something's not working to how our, behavior is as police officers, they'll address it pretty quickly as far as putting in violations, locations, importing, for example, in parking tickets, our parking lots. We don't have to look up addresses. It's very convenient the way that it auto-populates. They even have key codes where we can type in, part of an address or part of a violation, and it'll give us things that have that keyword in it, which is a lot quicker than us, having to look it up. Again, another part of this ticket that we have to fill out, just giving you guys an example of what it looks like. The back here, all our bonding information, it really helps us make this more streamlined for the officer to make those decisions and make sure we're picking the right options. The racial profiling, which is a requirement through state law that we complete out every ticket, it won't let you print the ticket unless you complete the racial profiling. So that's always a good fail-safe for us to make sure that we're turning in our statistics appropriately to the state. Again, this is what a warning looks like now as opposed to an old carbon copy. We print this off right in our car, and it's kind of nice now. It says big letters warnings. There's no question. This is an example of a citation. It's got a little more correspondence information on the back there, but that's going to look very similar in fashion. Our parking tickets, very similar setup. What's nice about our parking now, it actually has the vehicle owner information on there, where in the past we didn't have that information on there. So if we need to track somebody down for violation of payment, it makes it easier to do so. This is what the parking citations look like. On the left here, you've got a warning, very nice big letters. This is warning only. On the right, obviously, it's got the explanation of how to pay those tickets. Much cleaner look, much easier for us to issue in the car. Initially, my first bullet point here, I thought it'd take longer, but actually in some cases it's not as long to fill out these citations. So that frees up our time to do more. The imported information is more accurate. There's a portal. We can actually log into the state and run license plates and driver's license, which we've been able to do for years, and allows us to take that information and directly import it into the fields. So then we're not having to physically type in everything, which really speeds up the process as well. And then with that, uniform marking multiple citations. Let's see a guy that's done a lot, or you pull somebody over for speeding and then they've got no insurance. So instead of me having to write the same thing twice or populate the same thing twice, I just hit one button, click companion ticket, and it duplicates all the information I need, again, making us much more efficient. Commander Meduzzi explained the adjudication process, which is really our fulfilling of our due process of the citation. The prosecution is based off of preponderance of the evidence for fines and fees as opposed to beyond reasonable doubt, which allows for some easier prosecution of the offense as well. What's nice about that is only one officer is needed for that meeting at the adjudication. So whereas if you write a traffic citation under state statute, every officer then has to respond to those contested citations. Where in this case, similarly as the offender doesn't need to respond for contesting it, the officer who wrote it won't need to be there, just an officer representing him. So it frees up the officer's availability and time as well. Right now we just use it for parking violations and administrative tows, but again we can expand that into local ordinance violations, even traffic violations. So again, it's got a lot of latitude for us to expound on things. But all this is managed very well by the records division. I'll let Rhonda talk about that.
You can click the next.
I'll double click you again, sorry. There we go.
The notification to the violator is streamlined with this software. Records is able to obtain documentation from a violator. Let's say they said, I paid for that slot. They can submit it without even having to show up at the hearing. As long as they submit their paperwork, records can scan it, puts it in with the ticket, so the ticket actually has a history and it has evidence that you can, any documentation that they provide, even if they want to provide a statement. So all that, and then the notification, a lot of people say, I lost, or I never received the ticket, it wasn't on my car. DACRA, records will run a letter within 10 days after they were issued the ticket. So that way the violator will get a letter in the mail also, so that's their second notice of receiving their ticket themselves. And then they're also given another letter after the adjudication hearing. So they have plenty of notification throughout the process, and each step that's taken has a history, and you can see it within the ticket itself. And there's definitely less time spent interpreting the officer's handwriting. Some of it's it will take quite a bit of time reading writing, so you don't have to worry about that since it's all typed. So it's much easier to read, so that creates less errors. Every year for records retention, I used to box up, probably have 4 banker boxes a year. Now I don't with this, since it's all done done through the computer. And then also vehicle information, since it comes right away over from the officer. In the past, records would have to run each individual ticket through leads to find out who the owner and their address is, and they don't have to do that anymore. We have a great multiple search function, so you can search for a ticket utilizing any of the fields. Like, people will come in and they won't even bring their ticket in. They'll be like, I know I have a ticket, but I don't have it with me, so I don't know what the number is. They can look it up by their address, by their name, first name, last name, just a multiple different ways. Payments are much more easier too and streamlined, much faster.
So again, it's much more efficient. It helps us do our job, but it also it helps the community a lot too with the other functions where they don't have to necessarily maybe show up for things, or it's easier to contest. There's more historical information we can keep. Again, with all these programs, we can expound upon them, our usage. I went to user training where we can use a smartphone in the future potentially to take pictures of plates, which will automatically generate a ticket. And there, right there is proof of the violation, so it's a lot easier to prove too as well. And also heat mapping, where you can show, based on a map of your city, where the most likely violations or things are written or documented. So all that lovely historical data is also recorded all within there. Now, those first two obviously were very helpful for law enforcement, for us to do our jobs and be efficient with our jobs, which in turn helps you guys. However, Frontline, I think, is the big one that helps the community as a whole, based on the aggregate of information and the types of information that's in there. Oh, there you go, double clicking again. All right, so this is what the portal looks like, and as Commander Meduzia said, it's got, different, really basic. It almost looks like an elementary school, bulletin board here. But simpler is better for law enforcement, especially when we have so many things to remember and do. But it's got overnight parking, vacation watch, directed patrol, condition report, pet management, and at-risk residents. And I'll go over each of those, but just as an example, of directed patrol, if we have a speeding complaint, which is a large majority of the complaints that we have in here. For example, Nebraska Street, we receive complaints there. We're able to then historically track the warnings, the tickets. We can put a time frame on there that we're going to sample that information, whether it be a month, a year, whatever it is. And usually more digestible chunks, what beat it is, and we can view the activity on that. So again, overnight parking provides, again, a consolidated place for that information. Vacation checks, which is a service that our department offers for vacations where our residents really appreciate. What's even greater now is it sends an automatic email anytime an officer logs in a vacation check to that resident. So you can be the owner of DACRA in Hawaii potentially and have a house here in Geneva. Get a notification, on your vacation of when that house check was taken. Directed patrol, again, is very trackable information. It's also good because we can use it between shifts. Sometimes there's a disconnect based on how busy we are and what's going on in the different shifts. So if a day shift guy logs into this computer, he can see, a midnight shift guy checked that at this time, or we can kind of spread out our activity based on what we've seen on there. Oh, nobody on afternoon shift got to this extra patrol. I'm going to make sure I pay special attention to it when I'm there. So it's good things for us to be able to track. At-risk residents is something we're incorporating here too, and I believe Officer Mark Russo came to council and spoke about that program as well. Once we get that going, we're going to have invaluable information in there about potential residents in the community that are at risk, and that might be in a mental health or medical crisis. So we can access that while responding or at a call that will aid the officers in assisting that person. So if somebody is got an autistic child that maybe responds poorly to lights and sirens, we might be able to censor that behavior so we don't cause triggers where we don't need them, allowing us to better manage and be more effective on our jobs. Or a medical alert. This person, doesn't have, lives alone and doesn't have access to the front door when they fall on occasion. Those things. Hey, the garage code is this. We can put certain things on like there that allow us to help those citizens better during our calls for service with them. Pet management, again, a great spot for information. And condition reports, which is a much more uniform way that we're doing it. I'm going to allow Ron to talk about that. Once I click.
Once the officers entered a condition reports and records receives it, and then they're able to forward it on to the appropriate agency. There's so many different types of condition reports they'll get, like for lights out on the street, different stop signs missing, or and each one has different agencies that manage it. You've got IDOT, you've got KDOT, you've got Public Works, and there's just multiple different ones that handle each different, depends on the location and exactly what it is. And everyone can see the condition reports at a glance. In the paper form, they would turn it in and it would go from their squad into the building. Sometimes it could get lost or it could still be in their squad. So this way, at least it's all streamlined, don't have to worry about it being lost. And there's less chance for duplication because that happens a lot. Like one officer will see it, fill out one, and then another officer sees it, fills it out. They can see all of them at a glance, and so they'd be able to see whether or not somebody's already done it. That helps. The pet management, which everybody loves their pets, and for that one, if you go in, you can see right at a glance every pet that's been reported, that they documented that was lost or found. So it's a quick place to look, and that even accepts pictures. So like if the CSO is out and they do bring one into the PD, they'll take a picture of it, they'll upload it and put it in there, and that way if they do get a call, Records is able to pull this up and they can see all of the missing ones at a glance, and also if it's repeat pets that are missing a lot. This concludes our presentation. Can we answer any questions for you?
Questions from the dais for our guests this evening. Alderman Clements?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Just so with, I think DACRA it was called, so you said you use that right now for things like parking violations, basically, but it said it could be used for all ordinances. So why aren't you using it for more right now, or is this kind of like breaking it in, or?
So they kind of rolled DACRA out in phases. So there's parking, there's citations, and then there's the adjudication process, and it's kind of 3 learning modules. Within some of those modules, there's multiple things, and we just wanted to keep it as simple as possible because, like Brad said, we went from pen and paper, copying down from a license, to now a computerized system. So we're trying to make sure that we're not making a lot of errors and things like that before we roll different things out. With the ordinance violations, our system right now works pretty well. We have local prosecutors that handle that. So this would really just be a completely separate, they equate it to kind of like the size of the hammer. So if you want to just hit them with a little fine, you could go through the adjudication process. If you want to hit them with something a little bit bigger, you can go through the local ordinance, and then there's obviously always a state violation. So since we already have 2 avenues, adding a third gets a little more complex. So we're just kind of taking our time before we roll that out.
All right, makes sense. And I was just curious, are these packages, are they something that we buy outright and own, or is it a service that we pay for monthly? How does it work?
Most of them have a monthly fee, yes.
Do you know what that is?
That's, I think DACRA's $1,500 a month.
Okay.
I'd be guessing at the others. Sorry.
All right, thank you very much.
Alderman Bruno?
Thank you, Mayor. Sergeant Jurdy, the DACRA does the tickets. Now, we've got a number of sliding scale, first offense, second offense, that type of thing, so that's all.
In relation to parking specifically, is that what you're thinking?
Yes, parking specifically, so that's all built into there, so you enter a license plate, it knows this is a third offense.
I'm going to defer.
Yeah, so when we built it out, every violation, basically, as it starts to scale, just has a dot after it. So the first violation gets a dot, then the second scale gets a dot. So when they pull that up, it'll say violations 0 to 1, violations 2 through 4, all that. So they have to click the right box. But when they go down to the actual violator, if you just scroll over where their name is, it'll list, like a little pop-up box, how many violations they have. So it's very user-friendly to just scroll over that, see that they've already had 3 violations, so this one I need to make it their 4th.
And do these records roll over year to year? So if I get a parking ticket December 31st and another one in the same place?
I was told at a previous council meeting I'm not allowed to answer that. But yes, you get a clean slate every year.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Kilberg?
Yeah, I might have missed it. You can actually query then DACRA, where you can go in and you could say, you know, how many parking violations we've had on 3rd Street in 2019.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes, yeah,
So you can pull up. It makes acquiring data or securing data a lot easier. I had a question on Frontline. Now, it looks like it's a quality assurance program where your condition reports. Okay, as a part of a quality assurance program, is there a point where there's resolution? In other words, is there a box or is there some follow-up? Okay, we've got a street light out. Okay, now, what's the process and how do you know that that street light's been repaired and that it's taken care of? And is there a follow-up? In other words, we've got this list of condition reports And is there a time when you get together and go through those to see what their status is, or is there something on there that tells you that it's been resolved and that it's not pending yet?
Yeah, so when the officers report it, then it goes through records review.
Right, and you'll kick that out. That could go to Public Works, or it could go to Electric. You know, I guess, where's the check and balance, and where do you know that there's been a resolution to it?
Sure, and that's
Other than the resident calling back a second and third time saying, that light's still out yet.
Sure. With the condition reports, it's through the records division, so I can let Rhonda speak on that as far as their procedure.
Maybe it doesn't have that capability, and that's fine too, but I'm just saying that it would seem like a conditions report would have a check that indicates that it's been resolved.
It doesn't have anything like that for that portion. Records, if it's for Public Works, they have to log into the Public Works's, they have their own system that's tracked. So that way, they know
Right.
exactly when it was entered. So like anything, like streetlights, anything dealing with Public Works gets entered into their.
I understood,
Their Q&A.
but if a police officer reported it,
Sure, records access that same program. So again, we reported all the same place. So whatever shift we're on,
so you're using the same.
we're the same program. So
Same program to report to Public Works that the public is using.
So records is our filter for that.
Okay.
So records then will review everything in Frontline, that's our police aggregate, say all the officers aggregate it there. Records then determines what department then needs to be notified. And it could be varying departments, like Rhonda said, if it's our Public Works, yes, for our roadway, our conditions, but it might be KDOT, it might be something else. So what they do is make notation within that, that record that the officers recorded, that they've handled it in XYZ way. So whether that be they've notified the electric department, or they've notified Public Works, whatever the case might be. The portal that they use through the Public Works is what they'll then enter that through. But for officers, it's good because then, like you said, there's no duplication of efforts where, I see the street light outside of City Hall is out. The next officer sees the exact same thing. He goes to enter it. He'll still be in, the system if it's within close proximity. So with so many different systems working into each other, it's not a perfect where everything's integrated, but at least it's a good clearinghouse that will go through records, and they'll vet all of those things to know who to notify, and then record back within that Frontline system.
And the last question, if a resident wants to appeal a parking ticket, now they have to go to, if they're having a hearing on this, they have to go to Batavia? Correct. What's the nature of that? Why aren't we doing that here in Geneva? Why are we deferring that to Batavia? And what's the cost of, and what are the factors that contribute to, it makes more sense to send people to Batavia rather than to facilitate that here locally?
It makes more sense because we share a hearing officer, so we share the cost. So it's only half the cost that it would be if we did it ourselves. And how this all started is when we did the administrative tow, that automatically got us into the adjudication process. You had to have a hearing for the administrative tows, which is a process we were never involved with. So Batavia had already had that up and running, and they said, we don't have enough of them to make an entire night of it. So if you want to send yours over to us, we do them on the third Thursday of every month. So we just always use them. When this came up, we worked with DACRA to say, what's this going to look like in terms of our parking violations and things like that? And they said that system could continue as is. Don't reinvent the wheel. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So we've been using that very successfully, which is half the cost than if we did it here on our own.
So there isn't any cost considerations as it relates to Batavia for their facilitating these hearings. And I mean, we're sharing half the cost to the hearing officer.
Correct.
And that's the extent of it?
That's it. Yeah, they just, once we got on board, they let us use their building, and actually some of their resources, they let us log into their computers and stuff like that. We're budgeting to get our own to be able to take over there on like an AV cart, but they've only ever charged us for half the price of the hearing officer.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Anyone else? Rhonda, if I may, 21 years in the business.
Yeah.
In a sentence or two, everything has changed.
Yes, yes.
And for those of you who don't know Rhonda who are tuning in, even when you visit the police station, you don't see Rhonda because you're tucked away in this corner.
Yeah.
Your life has become immeasurably easier, I would assume, because of these programs.
No.
Why is that?
Well, I love software, so actually this is my wheelhouse.
Okay,
I
so-
really enjoy learning the different aspects of it and so I bring it on. It doesn't
It's
bother
all
me.
good from your perspective.
Yes.
That's awesome.
What she's not telling you is that she's the catch-all for when people screw something up.
Oh, I sense that.
Yeah, so
Well,
Ron-
you clearly didn't tell Sergeant Jardine not to double click. So I was like, anyone else? Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Item 4, folks, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments this evening? Item 5 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine and can be considered and voted upon with one motion. Is there such a motion? Alderman McGowan makes the motion. Alderman Swanson makes the second. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Caven.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhart.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Item 5 passes with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. We skip down to item 9A. Consider acceptance of fiscal year 2019 comprehensive annual financial report. Mr. McCready, if you'd like to provide an introduction.
Thank you. Yes, if I may, before you is an item to accept the city's comprehensive annual financial report this evening. And with us this evening, we have Jason Coyle, if I'm saying so correctly, from our auditing firm to present the report and answer any questions that you may have. And if I may add, we also have Rita Cruz, the city's finance manager, will also be joining us. She and her team have been working very diligently. I want to especially call out and give credit to Jennifer Maluski, who's been integral to this process. As I said, they've been working diligently to get this year's report complete. And if I may invite Rita up here, I believe she has a few
Absolutely.
remarks.
And if I may, just for formality's sake, is there a motion to accept? Motion by Alderman Marks, seconded by Alderman Clemmons. Welcome, Rita.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jason Coyle is here from Baker Tilly Virchow Kraus to present the 2019 audit. But before he begins, I have some opening remarks about the audit. Since budget season is just around the corner, here's a brief update of the 3 major funds at the end of the fiscal year. As a reminder, the city's policy is to strive and maintain a 25% fund balance in the general fund and a 25% cash balance in the electric and the water wastewater fund. The general fund ended better than projected, with revenues exceeding the budget due to increases in utility taxes, building permits, and state shared income tax. Savings on the expense side included health insurance, motor fuel and lubricants, operating supplies, and transfers from other funds. The general fund's unassigned fund balance is $7.1 million, while the total fund balance is $7.2 million. As a percentage of expenditures, unassigned fund balance is 39.5%, up from 32.2% from fiscal year 18, and the total fund balance is 40.2%, up from 33.2% from fiscal year 18. The electric fund is at a 29.73% of cash balances, while the water and wastewater fund is at 30.33%. At the end of the fiscal year 19, all of our funds listed in our fund balance policy are in compliance. For more high-level interpretation of the audited financials, for your reading pleasure, the management discussion analysis begins on page MD&A 1. Thank you to the hard work of the Finance, Human Resources, and Information Technologies divisions in assisting with the audit process and the support of the Assistant City Administrator and City Administrator throughout the fiscal year 2019. I will turn it over to Jason to discuss the audit results. Thank you.
Mr. Coyle, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you. Well, Rita already touched on a few of the points I was going to touch on, so does that make my presentation even shorter, which is probably beneficial to all of you. Let me just summarize a couple things, though. First of all, thank you to Rita and her staff for everything they do to help us get ready for the audit and get the audit out the door. It's a lot of work. We come in and bug them for a couple weeks and ask them a lot of questions, and they have their day-to-day job to do on top of it, so we appreciate all the help they provide. You do issue, and I have a paper copy, and I believe you have an electronic copy in your packet, a comprehensive annual financial report. So that goes above and beyond the level of reporting you're actually required to do, the kind of standard financial statements. So you have more information in here than is typically required, which is great. It just provides a higher level of transparency of your operations. There's a lot of 10-year historical data in the back. So you're congratulated on continuing to issue the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR for short. So Rita did mention the MD&A management's discussion analysis. You can see this is a lengthy document, 170 some pages. Not everybody wants to pan through and look at all these pages. So I always encourage governing bodies to look at the MD&A, the management discussion analysis. It does a good job of kind of summarizing some of the higher level stuff during the year. There's some summarized charts and graphs in there as well. So I really encourage you to take a look at that. It's a very lengthy document, and as I mentioned, there's only 3 pages in here that comes from our firm, and that's our audit opinion, which in the paper copies, pages 1, 2, and 3. And the opinion is similar to what it's been in the past. It's what we call an unmodified or clean audit opinion. Highest level of assurance we can give on your financial statements. And in layman's terms, what it means is that a reader of the financial statements can trust that the numbers are in here are accurate in all material respects as they evaluate the health of the city. The only change in your audit opinion this year from last year is a slight paragraph in here that mentions you implemented a new reporting standard, GASB Statement 75, GASB's Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They set the rules for what your financial statements need to look like related to the implementation of other post-employment benefit liability, and I'll explain that in just a minute. One of the things I always like to talk about with boards, particularly since we're here in the state of Illinois, is your net pension liabilities, and now this new OPEB liability. Always a hot topic, unfortunately. Your net pension liabilities for your 3 pension plans, IMRF, police, and firefighters, along with some of the component liabilities that go along with them, actually went up slightly for the year, in large part due to the market. And the market goes up and down, as you know, every year. And given how it kind of ended, those liabilities went up slightly. But you have continued to contribute actually even more every year to all your pension funds than you did the previous year. So it's not related to a decrease in your funding. You're meeting your required contributions to each of those pension funds, even though that liability changes due to the market value of the assets that each pension fund holds. As I mentioned, you implemented a new standard related to other post-employment benefits. That's benefits that are provided to retirees other than pensions, primarily related to health insurance costs. And so there's a liability that's associated with that. That liability this year, for the first time, was placed on the financial statements, not in the individual funds that Rita talked about, but in your entity-wide financial statements. That liability has always existed. It's just for the first time being placed on your financial statements. So that came to about $3.8 million as of the end of the year. Rita really already talked about the other big thing I like to point out, which is your general fund and how that operates. And she mentioned that your fund balance ratio to expenditures continues to increase. The other thing I always like to point out relates to your proprietary funds, which is the funds, your electric and water and sewer, and how are those operating. Those are meant to be self-supporting through charges for services. So I always like to see, are they doing that? Are the revenues exceeding the expenditures? And indeed, for all your proprietary funds, that occurred, which meant that at least at the current moment, you're charging the appropriate amount without consideration for infrastructure improvements and things like that might need to be worked into the future. The other document that we issue is a smaller document. We commonly call this the management letter. And this provides some recommendations for improvement in your internal controls. When we come in to do the audit, we kind of kick the tires on the internal controls or your checks and balances within the finance department. And sometimes we come up with some recommendations. So these recommendations get categorized by terms like material weakness, which would be the most concerning. You don't have any of those, so congratulations on that. And then the next level down is just what they call significant deficiencies. So we have a couple in here, just recommendations for improvement. Management's responded to them, similar to actually recommendations we had in the past, so it's not like anything, quote unquote, got worse. What's not in this document, I always like to point out, is all the great things that the finance department does and all the good controls that you have in place. The standards don't have us put those down in a packet like this. They just put standards just requires to highlight some of the recommendations that we have. So I won't go through those in detail just because management has responded to them in the letter, and they are similar into the past. But I know there's some ideas about improving some of those in the future already. So. With that, I'll open it up to any questions you have either on the financial statements or on our management letter.
Questions or comments for our guest and/or our finance manager?
Right, comments.
Alderman McGowan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the report and everything
Yeah.
that the city staff has done as well. And this is really good news for the city and for Geneva residents. I think things are moving in a positive direction, and thankfully, we're not facing any major recession now, even though I feel like the threat of that is always
Knock
kind of
on wood, right?
looming, or, yeah. And it's something that the city needs to keep in mind and be prepared for, as much as possible. But, I did want to know a little bit more about the recommendations for the internal controls. When you say that, these recommendations are similar from year to year, does that mean that, each year there are new recommendations identified, or are these kind of the same things that and the city is still kind of working to
Yeah.
meet those recommendations?
Yeah, it'd be the latter. So these are really similar. In fact, I think they might almost be identical to what they were in the previous year, and the management's just working to try to implement changes to compensate for those. I know some of them relate to manpower, some relate to system limitations, and maybe you could speak to it better than I could. Some of it's also related to the fact last year was the first year we did your audit, and so we came in and gave you some recommendations you might not have seen in the past, and by the time we give you those recommendations, because the audits doesn't get done until several months after the end of the year. It takes a while to kind of what's your plan going to be, get those implemented. It really takes a few years just to try to remedy some of these things as well.
Okay, that's good information to know that some of these solutions may take a couple years.
Yeah,
It
by all
could be, whether it's a hiring, or I know there was a little bit of restructuring of duties that can take place, but I guess I'd be curious to know what the finance department's kind of timeline is, or what the city's timeline is for meeting those recommendations, or if there's any kind of notion of that.
Well, at this point, like Jason said, we're trying to work with our system limitations, which some of those items we cannot control concerning our financial software. And we're just working with manpower and staffing as well. We've made one major improvement with the payroll process, separating it out from the benefit side. But at this point, we're really just trying to drill down, see what kind of efficiencies are going on within the finance division, and try to move things around to make that work. So it's just, like he said, you may not see a whole recommendation go away, but between last year and this year, we took little portions of that off. Unfortunately, it's not enough to have the comment go away, but we are slowly working towards that process to remove them all. And like I said, if the system won't allow us to do that, we may never be able to get rid of a recommendation, because our software is a canned product, and we can only request changes. But if everyone else isn't making those same changes, then they make those recommended changes to change the software.
Okay, thank you. And then also, I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Coyle said, was that it seems like the vast majority of things that the finance department and the city are doing are really exceptional and meeting the highest level of standards for accounting. And
Yeah, like I said, the standards only require us to put down the recommendations. There's a lot of great things that go on that we obviously don't put down in this letter, so yeah.
well, thank you.
Anyone else on the dais? Alderman Kilberg.
Just one question.
Yeah.
You're in the second year of a 3-year contract with us?
Second year of a contract, I don't know how many years. 4
Is
years?
it 4-year? Okay, thank you.
We have a motion, we have a second to accept the report as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say nay. Let the record show that the vote was 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 absent. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Coyle, is your fingernail painted by chance?
No, it's not.
Let that reflect on the management report. Item 9B, ladies and gentlemen, consider approval of a special event application for the Women's March, January 18, 2020, including requests for street closures and city services. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Bruno. Second. Seconded by Alderman McGowan. Mr. McCready?
Thank you. If I may consolidate here, the next two items before you concern
Please do.
special event and use of the city sidewalks for the Women's March scheduled for this coming March. Due to the size and nature of this event, it necessitates a temporary parking restriction to promote public safety. It would also add that the organizers have coordinated or contracted for volunteers to support the event and will be reimbursing the city for costs associated with police services. We do have Ms. Kathleen Timoshenko in the audience tonight to help answer any questions. I believe we have other representatives here as well.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any questions for either our Economic Development Director, Ms. Timoshenko, and I know we have Sue Sanders present this evening as well, who's representing the march. So, yes, Alderman McGowan.
Oh, thank you. I could be mistaken, but it seems to me that the route is a little bit different
It
for
is.
the upcoming march from the previous year, and I was just kind of curious how that came to be. And
Welcome, Sue.
Thank you very much for thinking about this. We really appreciate it. The reason why it was kind of short, we felt, and we were so appreciative that you all agreed to it last year. So we thought we'd take it on a little bit more. That is why, because everybody gathered, we put a lot of energy into it, and it was maybe a 10-minute walk. So this might add on like 10, we only want 1 hour. We're going to shorten the speeches because it was really cold. I know some of you were there, and it was very cold that day and snowy. The other years prior in the city, in Chicago, it was warm and sunny. So we're going to cut everything to 1 hour. And so the only reason why was just to have a little bit longer walk.
oh yeah, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I did the walk last year, and hopefully I'll get to do it again this year, and I'll enjoy a longer stroll. And is there a later start time this year as well?
Yeah, the reason why we were hoping to have a more diverse crowd to represent the Women's March. And so there is a prayer group at ECC that day for the Martin Luther King prayer group breakfast. And several of the elected officials, Lauren Underwood, Sean Caston, Raja, and I'm going to mutilate his name, they all are going to be at the breakfast. So we hope to make it that they could come over here, as well as some of the participants at the Martin Luther King breakfast.
Okay, well, that sounds wonderful, and I hope for better weather this year. But it was proven last year that the march was a success,
It was.
regardless of what Mother Nature, sent our way. So,
Absolutely.
well, thank you for the
Thank you.
information.
Anyone else from the dais? We have a motion by Bruno. We have a second by Alderman McGowan. All those in favor of approving this request, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say nay. The motion passes with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. Thank you, Sue. Item 9C, ladies and gentlemen, consider resolution number 2019-99, authorizing use of Illinois State Route 38 sidewalks for the Women's March, January 18, 2020. Mr. McCready spoke to this matter briefly when we introduced item 9B. Are there any additional questions regarding that matter?
It's resolution 89.
Oh, resolution 89, forgive me. Sorry, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by McGowan. All in favor? Well, wasn't McGowan?
It was me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Ruby. Good Lord.
That's
It's a
okay.
pleasure
At least
meeting
you
you.
got the gender right.
I know, it's like, good Lord. And a roll call would be in order for the resolution unless there are questions to ask. Sorry, Becky. Mr. Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhart.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Caben.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
And who made the motion? Was that?
Bruno
Thank
and Ruby.
Thank you.
Kilburg guy also.
And Alderman Kilburg didn't cast his vote yet.
I'm so sorry.
All
Kilburg.
right. You're forgiven.
A lot of stuff going on over here. We apologize for that. The motion for the resolution passes with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. Item 9D is to consider ordinance number 2019-21, granting a variation to increase the maximum allowable floor area by 15% for the property located at 516 Peck Road. That 15% equals 712 square feet. Is there a motion? So moved. Motion by Alderman Marks, seconded by Alderman Kilburg. Mr. McCready?
Again, if I may briefly add, the ordinance before you is for consideration that grants a variation to increase the maximum allowable floor area by 15%, as you shared. This matter has previously been reviewed and approved by the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, and then we do have staff tonight, including Director DeGroot here to help answer any additional questions you may have about this item.
Any questions on the dais for either Mr. DeGroot, Alderman Ruby?
Just a clarification, was the lot line moved, or I lost track of the details here?
Yes, the original proposal required a side yard setback variation. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that they minimize that or eliminate that variation, so they did move the lot line 8 feet to the west to eliminate that request.
Okay, so then I'm just not clear on if the lot line is moved, why they still need the variation.
So that eliminated the variation for the side yard setback,
Oh,
but they still need the variation for to increase the allowable floor area.
Okay.
It reduced, the original request was for 20%. By moving the lot line, they gained additional lot area, which reduced the request to increase the floor area to 15%.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the dais? Alderman Swanson.
This is for DeGroot as well. Were any objections received from neighbors in the area? Maladra and myself did not receive any, and just was wondering if you were.
We didn't receive any objections by phone or email, and there was nobody in attendance at the public hearing either.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Alderman, no, anyone else? We have a motion by Alderman Marks, a second by Alderman Kilberg. Mr. Clerk, when you are ready, please take the roll vote. Roll call.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhart.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Caven.
Aye.
Mr. Kilberg.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
And Marks.
Aye. Motion passes with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. Item 9E, forgive me, consider ordinance number 2019-22, granting a special use in the B4 Business District to allow a garage for storage and repair of motor vehicles, including body repair, at 802 East State Street, otherwise known as State Street Collision. Is there a motion? Motion by Alderman Clemmons, seconded by Alderman Swanson. Mr. McCready.
This ordinance allows for special use for property that has, while has been zoned before, has been a motor vehicle repair shop since 1958 effectively. The property has never been granted a special use and is therefore legally speaking non-conforming. Non-conforming uses may be expanded, which this property was in fact. Obtaining the required special use will bring the property into compliance and allow the added accessory storage structure to remain. And again, we have Director DeGroot here this evening with us to answer any additional questions you may have about this.
Any questions for the director? Seeing none, hearing none. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Swanson.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhart.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Caven.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Item 9E passes with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. Folks, item 10, municipal bills for payment. Mr. Clerk, whenever you're ready, please share the bills in their aggregate for our consideration.
Total bills are $3,688,849.70.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's packet on the city website.
Motion by Alderman Bruno to pay the bills as read, which are also available on the city's website and in our packets. Is there a second? Second. Ooh, Alderman Burkhart. Just a little bit too late. Just kidding. Alderman Burkhart makes the second. Mr. Clerk, whenever you're ready, sir, please take the roll.
Bruno.
Aye.
Burkhart.
Aye.
Clements.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Caven.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Item 10 passes with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. We skip down to item 12, folks, new business and public comment. Any one from the audience wish to address the council, ask a question, share some information? Now is your time to do so. Alderman Burkhart, do you
Yeah,
want to make an introduction?
We have Lisa Goodenough here tonight. She's a First Ward resident. Had written me about 6 weeks ago about some items that concerned her, and I suggested she come and talk to us in new business, especially with us having our strategic planning session coming up, so.
Good timing.
Hi,
Welcome. How are you?
good, how are you?
Good.
We're neighbors, right?
Yes, we are neighbors, yeah.
So I'm here on behalf of myself, but I also am speaking for many of my fellow Geneva residents who I've talked to about this. So my husband and I have lived in, I have lived in Geneva for 8 years. My husband lived here longer. He works at Fermilab. I also do as well. We have a 6-year-old son who attends Williamsburg Elementary, and we have a dog. And we walk our dog twice a day, every day. Our son enjoys riding his bicycle to school. We ride with him. So I should say we live on Country Club Place. So in order to get to Williamsburg, we have to go up Caneville and cross at, what's the name of the street there? Burgess, I guess it's called there. And there is a crosswalk there. However, and I think probably the mayor can attest to this, Caneville has become quite a racetrack, particularly in the last couple of years. Like I said, we've lived there for 8 years, and I've noticed the biggest changes over the last couple of years. And also walking my dog, I get around the city quite a bit. I've noticed changes everywhere in the city. And I know most of it's due to the growth, much of it on the west side of the city, west of Randall. But, we are in town and we have to deal with this as well, even though the density in town isn't different, not that different. So I've noticed issues on Caneville. I've noticed issues on James Street, which I walk along James to go to downtown with my dog. And I've noticed many issues on 38. And I'm sure you all have noticed these issues as well. People are speeding. People don't stop at stop signs. People don't respect people in crosswalks. We've had 2 people hit on Route 38 this year that I know of. I believe one of those people was killed. The other person at least seriously injured, if not killed. I never saw what the, never read what the results of that were. But this is a big concern to me. Pedestrian safety, bicyclist safety, and just even driver safety is a huge concern to me as a citizen of Geneva. And so I'm here asking that you consider dealing with some of the issues of pedestrian safety, bicyclist safety, and traffic safety, in particular on Caneville, Route 38, and on James Street, but also there are many other streets, I'm sure, that I just don't get on, don't drive on, don't walk along very much. So that's basically why I'm here. And I have suggestions for things that I think might help. I'm sure many of you have thought about this too. So I'm willing to share my suggestions or take any questions. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Alderman Burkhart, you and I spoke briefly prior to the meeting with respect to the timing of Ms. Goodenough's presentation and how it coincides with our strategic workshop we're hosting on November 1. And I'm certain Alderman Burkhart shared with you as well.
Yeah.
That as we adjourn for
That's
this
right.
big planning session, this is one of the priorities that I know we're going to be addressing.
Good, yeah.
Perhaps greater detail and, of course, exploring options,
Right.
budgetary and
And I
otherwise.
could just, I do want to point out one very specific area, and that's that crosswalk at Caneville and Burgess. And in addition to kids needing to cross over to go to school at Williamsburg, I noticed in the summer, kids crossing both ways because they're going to the pool. They're going to Sunset Pool from the other parts of the city. And people do not stop. And I've actually gone into the crosswalk there, and I was in the crosswalk and somebody was coming at me, not thinking of stopping. So that's a real big concern, I think, because so many children use that crosswalk. So I would really like to have something done for that particular area.
Alderman Kilberg, did you want to say something, sir?
You said you had some ideas. If you
I
could
do.
be concise, maybe I'd be interested in hearing what your suggestions
Sure,
are to
and
resolve.
I can also, I can forward you the email that I
Okay.
sent to Tara, but, yeah, so for that specific, I say, on Caneville Road between Southampton, Northampton, and James Street, and I know you have grandchildren that live on Southampton, Northampton, because yeah, well, I know them, yeah. So there, my suggestions for that, for Caneville Road in general, make the speed limit signs more visible, like add flags, light up the numbers, like, I believe on, Anderson now, there's that speed limit sign that's like, 30, 30, 30. I don't think it tells you that you're going faster than 30, but it at least says 30, 30, 30. And I think it really draws your attention to that. So something like that might be nice. Hey, it's 35 in here. And then particularly when you hit the top of the hill, I call it the hill. It's a hill for Geneva standards. But by the mayor's house there, it goes to 30 from 35, but people don't slow down. And that's right, that dangerous intersection. So if we had like a speed limit sign that was flashing or something, or even telling people that they're speeding. I have seen already an increase in police patrolling the area, in particular during like the 7:30 to 9 a.m. time slot and the 4 to 6:30 when there's a lot of traffic. I've actually seen police, and I don't know if that's because you said something or it's because the kids are back in school, but my neighbors and I have talked about it, and we have seen more police presence. They like to sit at the end of our street, Country Club Place, and look up the hill, which is fine by me. And then ideally, and I know it comes down to money, I think it would be great to have a traffic, like a pedestrian, not a traffic light, but a pedestrian light there where you hit a button and it turns red and you stop traffic. I don't think we need a light there for cars, although I don't go in and out of that. I do come out, I guess, when I bring my son home from school sometimes. But if we could stop traffic for pedestrians at, actually, I'm not thinking of Southampton, Northampton. I'm thinking at Burgess. If we could stop traffic there so the kids who want to go swimming or the kids who are trying to go to school or come home from school don't have to worry, I think that would be great. So that's my, yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Goodenough?
Yeah.
Alderman Ruby, then Alderman McGowan.
Thank you for sharing that. I was very curious to hear your suggestions too. Just a quick question, is there currently a crossing guard at that?
At the, there is a crossing guard at the Southampton, Northampton / Caneville Road.
Okay, but not at Burgess.
Is he a crossing, yeah, he's a crossing guard.
Yes.
But he's, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm assuming he's been doing it for a while. Seems like a nice older gentleman. But we do not have one down at the Burgess.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Something like that. I
Sure.
guess that'd be a lot cheaper than putting in a light. Yeah.
Thank you, very
Sure.
important topic, couldn't
Yeah.
agree more, so thank
Yeah.
you for coming and speaking
Yeah,
about it.
sure, you're welcome.
Alderman McGowan.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for your comments and suggestions. And I was just gonna ask if you could maybe like forward your suggestions just to the whole city council so that we can all have a copy.
Yeah.
And then kind of like take that into like
Oh,
our
absolutely.
strategic planning
Yep.
workshop. That'd be
Sure, I'll
awesome.
just forward the whole email to, yeah, everybody.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Ms. Goodenough.
Oh, sure, you're welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Be careful walking past my house.
Dangerous.
Yes. Especially when I'm out mowing the lawn, good Lord. New business from the dais, or anyone else in the audience wish to provide any comments, insight, criticisms? Nothing? I'm going to recognize Alderman Bruno, because I know you do have something, yes? Alderman Bruno.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to give a shout out to our own Jay Womack, who chairs our Natural Resources Committee. He was named Illinois Parks Outstanding Citizen Volunteer.
Isn't that something?
He's a very devoted and energetic fellow.
And all should know that he receives that award on Friday, November 1st, when we're all convening in the strategic workshop. And it happens, or so happens, that Friday, November 1st is also his birthday. So now I've just spoiled it. But, so it's a big day for him in multiple ways, so yeah, well said. Anyone else? Alderman McGowan.
Thank you. Well, I know the gentleman from State Street Collision left a little earlier, but I just wanted to compliment that business. I've always kind of admired the decorative painting that they have there. It's kind of like the Chicago Bears colors or U of I or what have you at the intersection of Route 38 and East Side Drive. And I just feel, I've always kind of noticed that they do such a great job of maintaining their curb appeal, and it's really fun and just kind of bright and eye-catching. So I just wanted to extend that compliment to State Street Collision. Thank you.
Thank you. And in a rare but, oh, Alderman Kilberg, yes.
Does anyone know why it was flying at half-staff today? The Bears flag?
I could hazard a guess. Do you? Yes. But not a Illini, right, Chuck?
That's right.
Good Lord. The city clerk has a special presentation for us tonight, folks. He wants to brag about some exciting work that was done, volunteer-led.
Yeah, those of you who saw my Facebook page, my wife and I, yesterday afternoon, volunteered with the History Museum and at the West Side Cemetery. It was a project like 3 years in the making, and Heidi Howlett, educator there, went through a special training session with the state of Illinois, certified to restore and repair gravestones. And it's a very complex process, but basically, there's about 1,090 people buried there. There's not nearly that many gravestones in the cemetery. Some are missing, lost. Some of them are underground, probably. And what we did yesterday was we took 2 gravestones which had fallen down. One was at an angle like that, and the other one was completely laying flat. And excavated down, dug a hole, and put them back in. These are very old gravestones. One was from 1848, and one was from 1831. And they're still intact, in beautiful condition. We had to clean them off and then dig a hole about 18 inches deep and put it back in the ground and stood it up. So Anna Smith, who died in 1831, that's 188 years ago, and her gravestone apparently is gradually laid down. So we got it set upright again. It was a very moving kind of thing to do that. And one of the important reasons to do that is so these things don't get lost. We had another one that was almost completely covered with grass, laying flat, encroaches over it, and eventually they get buried and lost. And the problem when the gravestones are laying down is they get run over and stepped on, and they crack. A gentleman, Abram Clark, who was born in 1774 and died in 1831, his was broken in half. Don't know exactly how that happened, but standing them up prevents that from happening. And, oh, there we go.
There you go.
Good job. Even a career in IT, I didn't get the format right. He was trying to help me. I gave up on it.
Let's see. Let's do that. Not sure which picture. They're not going to run.
Yeah, so you can get a sense there. That's
I'll leave these alone.
on the left that's Ann Smith's lying down on the ground, almost covered up, and then we stood it up at the top right. Gardner is before and after. It was covered with moss and lichen, and we scrubbed it off so you could read it. And Mary Octavia, you can see her stone was at a tilt and now standing up again. So it's kind of very moving to do that. They're going to be doing it again. It took a long time to get permission, and Heidi mentioned that she worked closely with Ben and Nate Landers. Very grateful to their help. So we'll be doing more and looking for more volunteers. There was only 4 of us out there, and we still managed to resurrect about 6 stones. So thank you very much.
That's really neat.
Very cool.
Ladies and,
May I
Mr.
just
McCready?
add too,
Please.
appreciate the kind words, and I also want to credit the Public Works Department. I know Nate Landers was working closely with her as well to work on access and provide some direction and kind of help them jump into this volunteer activity. So just want to thank him as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the city council meeting. Alderman Marks makes the motion. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned from the city council meeting. We will commence with the committee of the whole meeting as soon as the clerk has declared his readiness. It's my pleasure to call tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Let the record show that all the committee members are present. Item 2 is to approve regular Committee of the Whole minutes from October 7, 2019, and special Committee of the Whole minutes from September 9, 2019, and September 23rd, 2019. Is there a motion? So moved by Alderman Burkhart. Seconded by Alderman Swanson. All in favor of item 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Items of business, folks. Item 3A is consider draft resolution awarding bid and execution of a contract with Orbis Solutions for the purchase and installation of a display wall for the electric division in the amount of $75,622.94. Is there a motion? So moved. Motion by Alderman Marks, seconded by Alderman Clemmons. Mr. McCready.
Yes, Mayor, as you indicated, this item authorizes staff to proceed with the third phase of upgrades in the electric division, effectively transitioning the division to electronic maps. This upgrade improves the accuracy and capabilities of those maps and also is a significant improvement to the city's dispatch SCADA room, affectionately known as the War Room, out at Public Works. This is consistent with the goals of the strategic plan, and we do have Director Babica and then staff, Mr. Holton from the city's electric division here as well to answer questions.
Any questions or comments for either Mr. Holton or Mr. Babica? Alderman Craig Maladra.
I just have one question. So this is phase 3. Are there any more phases?
So the question was, what was the other phases?
This is phase 3. Are there phases beyond phase 3?
Oh, I'm sorry. This will be the final planned phase. I'm sure, you know, these things evolve as we use them. But as far as planning is concerned, this will be the last one.
Anyone else from the dais? Alderman Burkhart.
What's the longevity of something like this? I mean, do you think this is going to be useful and still,
I asked that very question. I said, you know, we're spending a lot of money. Is this going to be obsolete in 3 years and we're going to be back doing this again? The gentleman from Orbis said these computers are very robust and they can withstand upgrades over a long period of time. So we're probably looking at 10, 15 years before we'll have to upgrade hardware again.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item 3B is to consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with Sherman Industries for Peyton Street Substation preventive maintenance in the amount of $32,994 even. Is there a motion? Alderman McGowan makes the motion.
Second.
Alderman Bruno gets the second. Mr. McCready.
Thank you, Mayor. As you indicated, this item relates to preventive maintenance at one of the city substations. In the course of routine work, the city staff discovered the need to perform preventive maintenance there, and this item will allow that to take place. Again, we have staff here to answer any questions you may have.
And you are safely ensconced next to the podium, just in case. Questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none? Hearing none? All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Item 3C is to consider draft resolution authorizing execution of a contract with Aurora Sign Company for fabrication and installation of new city identification signage in the amount of $64,947. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Bruno, seconded by Alderman Burkhart. Several questions were asked electronically and responded to by Mr. McCready. Mr. McCready, anything else you'd like to add?
Just a few brief comments. This item represents the next phase in the installation of welcome signs as previously approved by City Council in 2016. This item represents the fabrication and installation of 5 additional welcome signs, primarily along Fabian, Randall, and Kirk roads throughout the city of Geneva. Then we do have Ms. Kathleen Timoshenko here to answer any additional questions you may have this evening.
Any questions or comments for the Director of Economic Development? Alderman Burkhart.
I served on the committee with Alderman Kilberg that helped design these signs, and I got to say, once they're installed, they do look great, and I notice other towns whose signs look like little puny or kind of like a subdivision sign compared to ours. Ours are stately and I think very timeless. But it sounds like there's been some issues with, it's been a little slower than we'd hoped with installation because of the sighting of some of these.
Yes, when the signs were adopted and we originally scoped out what we hoped to do, we expected that the signs would be able to be installed in right-of-ways, but because of the materials and the regulations from IDOT, we can't do that, so we have to work with private property owners or public property owners, Park District, Forest Preserve District, to be able to locate them a little bit off-site. And it's been taking a little bit of more time to get permission to first go on the property and stake it out, make sure it's the right site, check for utilities, and then write the easements. So it's just taken a little bit longer than we expected, but, you know, we're taking our time and making sure that they're properly located.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the signs, the added feature of both Alderman Burkhart and Alderman Kilberg's image on those is really deterring traffic from coming in. Anyone else? We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay.
Thank you.
Item 3D, as in David, consider draft resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of a notifier fire panel from Fox Valley Fire and Safety in the amount of $9,990. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Alderman Clements makes the motion.
Second.
Alderman Bruno makes the second. Additional information provided by Mr. McCready today via email. Mr. McCready, the floor is yours.
Just to add the item before you, will allow staff to address an issue with the fire panel in the city's parking deck. After multiple failures, it was determined that that panel is in a state of failure and needs to be replaced. City staff sought quotes, and upon review, and evaluating those quotes and conferring with additional staff and experts in the field, staff is recommending the purchase of the notifier panel. With us this evening to answer any additional questions is Director Babica.
Questions for Mr. Babica? Hearing none, seeing none? Thankful for none. No, I'm just kidding. Any questions at all? Nothing? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Back to new business. Anyone? Anything? Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Alderman Bruno gets the nod this time. Motions to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.